5 unknown things from the Call of Duty Zombies storyline, the original, The Ether. In this video I want to delve into 5 interesting yet lesser known aspects of the Ether storyline, spanning 5 games over a decade. The Ether story is brimming with lore that often goes unnoticed, so join me as we uncover some of these hidden gems together. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Starting off, we have the GK, aka Gorky Korolev Company. German knowledge are almost certainly the most obscure bit of lore in Black Ops 1, if not the Black Ops storyline at large, despite them being extremely important to the campaign of the first game, being prominently featured in the viral marketing of GK Nova 6, and even relating back to the zombie storyline as well. The origins for the GK as a company lie in World War II with the GK Corporation, which was the main manufacturer of Nova 6 for the Germans. The corporation was shut down due to backlash in May of 1949, but seemed to exist afterwards as a shadowy group of individuals up into at least the early 2010s, as seen in the emails present in GK Nova 6. There's also GKM, Gorky Korolev Medical, which was founded by Kravchenko's cousin and was used to smuggle Nova 6 and sleeper agents into the United States for Project Nova. GK Medical also played a huge part in the creation of Dragovich's numbers program as well, the process in which sleeper agents including Alex Mason were brainwashed for Project Nova, and this is where it all ties back into zombies, as the base technology for the numbers program was seized by the company whenever the Soviets launched Operation Aviakiem, their equivalent to Paperclip, in 1945. During the operation, Kravchenko's cousin took part in a standoff and the resulting massacre at Der Riese whenever Russian and American forces descended onto the facility to steal as much technology and remaining scientists as they could. The Soviets ended up with a ton of tech here, which would later be used to benefit the Soviet Union greatly, with the formation of the Ascension Group using Group 935 scientists and the aforementioned numbers program. Next up, we have the true location of Shinonuma, aka the Swamp of Death. In the Ether storyline, Shinonuma, otherwise known as the Rising Sun facility, was a place of operation for Division 9, and later Group 935 as well, whenever the two decided to combine efforts when Dr. Maxis sold out to the Reichstag. The location of this facility has been a mystery for nearly as long as Triac Zombies has existed, as we never actually got the specific location of the facility until 2022, with the release of Shinonuma Reborn in Vanguard Zombies. You may be asking yourself, how is it possible that given the fact that Division 9 is an extension of the Japanese military, you would think it would be located in Japan itself, and you would be right. However, during World War II, Japan extended well into Korea, China, Indonesia, and even stretching as far south as New Guinea. So really just saying the map takes place in Japan doesn't actually narrow down the location of Shinonuma at all. However, as mentioned during Vanguard Zombies, specifically in a Kraft radio on Shinonuma, we would finally receive an answer. During the radio, Kraft discusses the swamp as a place in which Saraxis originally came into contact with humanity, and how she ended up trapped in her own artifact, separated from the Dark Ether, specifically mentioning that a group of priests in Okinawa Prefecture banded together in an attempt to separate Saraxis from her human host. Okinawa Prefecture is a location situated between Taiwan and the Japanese mainland, and as you already know, was a significant battle during World War II. So there you have it, after 13 years, the long theorized location of Shinonuma, one of the most iconic zombies maps ever, is finally confirmed. Thirdly, we have the fact that Moon from Black Ops 1 and Nuketown Zombies in Black Ops 2 actually take place at the exact same time. This may be a common fact for anyone who's played Nuketown back in the day, but I thought I would include this more known fact for some of you who may have forgotten. That's right, in the time between Richtofen taking control of the Ether and Maxis tricking the rest of Ultimus into destroying the Earth, there was a whole other battle of the undead underway back on our home planet at the exact same time. This is confirmed during the little outro cutscene that plays whenever you die in Nuketown Zombies, in which we see one of the missiles from Moon directly impacting the site itself. And if you continue to play past round 25, you will see that the zombies' eyes transition from being yellow/orange when Samantha was in control to being blue when Richtofen is in control. And you hear in the dialogue in the map him taking over, cockily. According to the official Treyarch Zombies timeline released at the end of Black Ops 3's lifecycle, the outbreak here was caused by the intense 115 drilling at the site, which caused the nuke dangling above Nuketown to detonate, in turn releasing 115 into the area, reanimating the dead. The CIA and the GDC arrive on site, and the map ensues. Another thing you may not know is that the Grief variant of the map is also canon, and that the CDC were present at the site to expose the true cause of the outbreak, whilst the CIA were there to cover it up. We actually get an allusion to this fact in Alpha Omega when Russman and Barkley went to the site to collect a sample from the Avogadro. Barkley, who was an official of the CDC in Black Ops 2 Zombies, used to be an agent of Broken Arrow, meaning that he would have known of the shady things that the company was up to at the site. Penultimately, in Black Ops 2 Zombies' first DLC map, Die Rise, you can sometimes hear the zombies making odd noises, rather than the usual moans or groans. The reason for this, you are playing as Stullinger. In Transit's dialogue, they teased us with the fact that Stullinger had a secret that he did not want everyone else to know. In the Duri's intro and radios, we get more context to just what this secret is. Stullinger was once a part of the Flesh.
Science has failed us. He has abandoned us. In this new world, we alone are your salvation. We alone can light the way. Hear our words. Heed our call. There is but one path to enlightenment. Just as they would consume us, we must consume them. We are the living, and we are the dead. We are the flesh, and the flesh is us. We will not starve. We will thrive.
The Flesh were a cult formed after the apocalypse, and one who were united by one defining trait, using the undead as a food source. Once consuming undead flesh that has been reanimated, these members of the Flesh are given special connection to the ether. This is why Stullinger is the only one capable of hearing Richthofen give orders, rather than hearing Maxis like the rest of the Transit crew. That connection to the ether also means that Stullinger can actually hear the zombies communicate. However, they don't threaten him or promise him harm at all. All they do is beg for help, and warn you that he lies. This gives players the chance to listen to this audio and theorize who the he is. During the map, the other characters will also passively mention the Flesh in their own dialogue, usually being disgusted or speaking about them negatively. This sets up Richthofen's main method of convincing Stullinger to listen to him, threatening to reveal his past to his new friends. Stullinger, desperate to not lose the only allies he has left, agrees to try and convince them to do Richthofen's bidding instead of Maxis. Unfortunately, we know canonically he would fail, and the others would consistently choose Maxis. We also see, later in Tag der Toten, the other characters have since changed their tone on the Flesh. It seems, throughout their time spent together in Black Ops 2 and the comics, the others have pieced together that Stullinger was likely a member of the Flesh. Russman outright says that it does not matter to him what Stullinger eats, that he cares for him as a friend either way. While the talking zombies did not return past Die Rise, their inclusion here seems obvious. Die Rise was the map where the Flesh were fleshed out, no pun intended, and were used to give Stullinger some deeper background lore. Their single appearance on Die Rise made players take an intenser look at the lore surrounding Stullinger and the Flesh, as well as try to solve what the undead were trying to tell us, that we now know. Finally, we have the plethora of buried lore that was revealed in Tag der Toten. Many of you might not be aware of this, but at the very tail end of the Ether story in Black Ops 4, in the final map actually, we suddenly got a rush of lore covering the old mining town, including answers to so many questions revolving around the Pack-a-Punch, Golden Rod, the ghost from Buried, and even finally got introduced to a character who had only been mentioned once throughout the entire story up to that point, that being Jet Brown. So yes, like I said before, it seems like whilst Treyarch were coming to the end of the Ether story, they were frantically trying to chase up all of these loose ends that we had pondered on for so many years. Do you think that this was a good idea by Treyarch? I've seen many people now in hindsight saying that they wish that they didn't answer so many questions at the end because it ruined a lot of the mystique and mystery that the Ether story held previously. And they feel like having all of the answers was not a smart idea, otherwise we would still be speculating about so many of these things now, whereas there's only a handful of questions left unanswered, and we know the majority of what was mysterious at the time of Black Ops 3 and previous. Anyway, anyways, jumping back to the lore, hidden around the layout of Tag Toten, you can find several old-timey records that once are placed on a gramophone in the lab area overlooking the map. You are treated to several audio recordings by none other than Jebediah Brown, the blacksmith, recounting his life and struggles within the American mining town of Purgatory Point. We learn how back in the late 1800s, one of the residents of the town stumbled upon a 115 deposit deep in the mines, returning days later as a zombie. What's interesting about this is that it makes this the earliest documented zombie encounter in the storyline, at least relative to the modern day that is. Of course, Vanguard has provided many examples of zombies way before, but that almost feels like a completely separate thing. Whilst technically it still took place within the old Aetherverse, Jeb Brown goes on to recount how his mother was killed by this zombie, and how over the course of the next few days, now grief-stricken, he headed down into the mines to discover the truth of what had happened. Whilst down there, Jeb discovers the 115 rocks, and whilst he doesn't turn into a zombie, he was exposed to the Aether's energy, allowing the Keepers to get into contact with Jeb, appearing to him as angels. They instructed him to build the first modern day iteration of the Pack-a-Punch. You can actually find Jeb's version of the Pack-a-Punch in the map itself, as it is the golden Pack-a-Punch found on a block of ice just off the shore next to the boat. Not only this, but the Keepers also instruct Jeb to build two other devices: the Vril device, otherwise known as the Golden Rod by Ultimus Richtofen later in the story, and the Vril Vessel, which is needed to build the Agarthan device, an immensely powerful device said to be able to grant wishes. Sometime during all of this, still stricken with grief, Jeb got an idea to try and revive his mother. He dug up her corpse and fed it into the Pack-a-Punch machine. Instead of reviving her as he had hoped, the machine had instead removed her soul, which is essentially Special 115, and she instead began to haunt the town of Purgatory Point. The Keepers would go on to finally instruct Jeb to insert the Vril Vessel into the Pack-a-Punch, and when he did, the whole town was transported across the planet, ending up in Angola, Africa. At this point, the town was overrun by zombies, and with that, Jebediah Brown met his end. And with that, there you have it, 5 mysteries from the Aether storyline. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments, and let me know if you want to see more fun facts like this. I'm thinking for future videos to take much deeper cuts into the Aether storyline and the Dark Aether storyline to some traits that are much less commonly known, as I know some of you experts out there will probably know at least of a few of these. So in the future, I want to delve into some things that literally no one has talked about on YouTube before. So with that being said, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.